And so, I have a question before we start with this. So, from the orchestra that you just saw, I want you guys to answer one question first. Does anyone know what the names of the instruments that you just saw? Can someone give me name of an instrument? Can you put your hands up when you have an answer? Go. Yes, you. Violin. Correct. Very good. Anyone else? Yes, you, let them know. Oboe. Yes, there was an oboe down there. Good job. Okay. Anyone else? You. Flute. Correct. So the flute was sitting, I think, standing down there actually too. Okay, last one. Does anyone have? Hello, what's your name? Eliana, nice to meet you. Can you give me an instrument? Clarinet. That's correct. Give a round of applause. So you see, there's a lot of instruments that we saw in the orchestra, and these instruments work together to create harmony. And this kind of harmony you get from all sorts of people playing together. But I have a question for you. So we have all these instruments. What is this instrument called? It's a very easy question. You at the front. Can you say your name first? Jane, can you say it out very loud? They can't hear. So, yes, so this instrument is called the piano. Now, the piano is known as the king of instruments. And does anyone know why? The clue is with the first piece that we saw with the orchestra. Does anyone want to take a guess? Why is it called the king of instruments? Anybody? This is quite a question, but this is what opens it. Okay, maybe it's a tricky question for all of us. But the reason why this is called the king of instruments is because it can reach all the ranges of the orchestra. So if we have the piccolo, we have the highest note. So this is the highest note. It can reach the highest note of the piccolo to the lowest note of the drums and the basses. So this is why it's called the king of instruments. And it's a very expressive instrument, and it's an instrument that gives lots of possibilities. Now, I will now play for you a piece of music, but I will not tell you what the piece of music is, but I will play you parts of it. And so, I'll begin with the left hand. Let us imagine that this is a cello. So we have, you see the cello players down there, and then they're playing something lo-di-dom, do-di-dom, do-di-dom. It goes like this. I'll play it again. Now, what happens when I play it too fast? Sounds okay, but if I play it too fast, then it doesn't sound very nice, no? Now, if I play it too slow, is it interesting or not? No, exactly. It's not very interesting. So, it's very important when we play something new, any piece of music, we play it at the correct tempo. Now, does anyone know what a tempo is in English? What does it mean? Can someone give an answer? Hello, what's your name? Marcel. Nice to meet you. So, what's tempo in English? Beat of music. Very good. Woo! Very good, master. Wow, these kids are very smart. I have to make it harder now. So, tempo means the beats of music and how fast the beats of music go. So it means when you have a tempo that says con moto, with movement, that means it must be moving. And in this piece, the person who wrote the piece wrote con moto, which means it must move. It shouldn't be too slow. And so we come to the first tip. It's important to play something at the correct tempo so that the music sounds beautiful. So, repeat after me. Correct tempo. That's your first tip. And remember these tips because at the very end, there will be a question with a small prize. I won't tell you what it is, but you have to pay attention. So, when you get a new piece from your teacher, that's just because you can play it very fast. So, if I can play. Even if I can play it very fast, doesn't mean it sounds good. Does it sound good or not? No, not very good. So, it means that you have to make sure that you can play it slower. Now, if you feel that you have a piece of music that's new and you're like, oh, this is so difficult, and there's too many notes, I can't play it at the correct speed. I'm playing it so slow. Like, it's very, very difficult. If that happens to you, that would mean that you need to practice. This is important, so that you can play beautifully, like this. So this is very important. Now, I will play. Do you remember the left hand of the piece at the beginning? I will now put a right hand, and I want to imagine that it's like a clarinet. So. Now comes the first question. What is the name of that piece of music? Does anyone know, by any chance? Yes, you at the front. Yes, you. What's your name? Jacqueline. Is that correct? Nice. So, what do you think the piece of music is called? For Elise. Wow, very good. Let's give her a round of applause. Good job. So, this piece is called Für Elise, and this is written by the composer Ludwig van Beethoven. Now, the name itself, as you can probably see very clearly, means for Elise. Now, who is this Elise exactly? Now, from looking at the books, unfortunately, historians don't really know who she really is. But what we know is that Beethoven really likes her. And as you will see, this piece is quite beautiful, that probably he writes it so that she likes him. And from this understanding, let us enjoy the piece Beethoven's Für Elise. Now, you think maybe that's a very simple piece, but actually to get the kind of singing line on top, it's quite tricky. And this is something that I hope will instill a certain inspiration and a certain understanding from all of you. Now, let's move on to the next piece. Now, I will play for you a certain piece by Frédéric Chopin. It's called Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2. Now, this piece is inspired by the sounds that Chopin heard in his homeland. And Chopin used to actually frequent the opera houses in Poland, where he lived, and also in France. And he used to listen to all these beautiful singers, and also there used to be this pit orchestra at the front, and then you can't see them, so you'll see the singer on the stage, and then you'll see this an orchestra right here. You can't see them, but they're playing. And Chopin liked the melody so much from these singers. And when he heard one melody, I think it inspired him, surely, to write something like this. Isn't that a beautiful melody? It's very nice. Now, he also remembered there was some orchestral accompaniment. So if you remember these violins, they were playing chuk, 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 chuk. So let's put a bit of this chuk, 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 chuk. So that was the pit orchestra. Let's just put it together very quickly. That sounds nice already. Now I have another story about Frédéric Chopin. Now, one day, Chopin went to a certain opera house. Now, we don't know which opera house it was, but one day he heard that the orchestra in the pit played so loud, and Frédéric Chopin couldn't hear the singer. So if I were to maybe imitate that, it would sound something like this. Hear the melody? Yes or no? Who says yes? Hands up. Very brave. Who says no? Put the hands up. Good. You know, I admire the bravery of those who put yes. Very honest. Now, yes, of course, you can't hear the melody. I mean, poor singer. He has to sing this beautiful melody, and then the orchestra goes. And they're very loud and shouty. That sounds terrible. Now, I have a question for all of you. What do we do when this happens? What should we do with the orchestra? Can someone put a hand up? What do we do? Maybe the orchestra knows the answer. When the orchestra is too loud and we can't hear the singer, what do we tell the orchestra? Put your hand up, I can't see. So, tell them to be quiet. Exactly. If you have an orchestra that's 60 people and you have one singer, we have to tell them to shush. This is so easy. But many piano players forget that the left hand when they play accompaniment, sometimes it's too loud. So they play also you can't hear the melody. So. So sometimes it doesn't work with the pianist. So sometimes we need to remind ourselves when we play piano, accompaniment softer, melody louder. So we come to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is very simple. We have to tell when we play accompaniment left hand, it has to be softer, melody right hand has to be louder. So accompaniment softer, or maybe left hand softer, melody louder. Repeat after me. Great. That's wonderful. So that's the second tip. And now I'll play for you how the music should sound, this Chopin nocturne that was written beautifully. Very nice. Now we come to the next piece on our list. Now this one is by Mozart, and it's also quite a famous piece. So this is the Rondo alla Turca. Now you probably have heard this piece. So have you guys watched Bluey before? Yes, probably you have. It's a very Australian cartoon, and in the first episode, actually, this piece was featured with the magic xylophone. So actually sounds quite dry and quite pluck, pluck, pluck. And so we come to this piece. Now, I have bad news for all of you. Unfortunately, I haven't practiced this piece. And I only know about it a few seconds ago, so just before I come in, and someone told me, oh, you should play this Mozart. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll try to play a little bit for you guys. Now, does that sound good to all of you guys? I'm so sorry. That has been a mistake. Now, when someone happens, something like this happens, of course they get frightened. What's important when something like this happens? What do we need to do when we haven't played this music and we need to perform it? Yes. Play it slowly, that's possible. But what do we need to do? Practice. That's a good idea. Well, the title of this concert is called Practice Makes Perfect. So, let's try maybe a bit of practice. What if I practice it very fast? Doesn't sound nice. So practicing is not really, just practicing. Now, here comes the important thing for all of us. When we feel like we're running out of control, like I was 2 seconds ago, it's important for us to play slower, as someone actually pointed out before, so very good. Now, I'll try to play it a bit slower, but I'll now try to make it like a good slow motion. Have you guys seen these movies where there's a nice slow motion action and then someone's trying to punch another person, it's like, and then the other one's like, Now, when we practice, this is exactly what we have to do, but with the fingers. So, if you can see what I'm doing with my fingers, you'll see, hopefully it'll look like, the slow motion action from Marvel movies. Ooh, this is hard. Fourth finger, yes, fourth finger. Oh, there's a stretch here. It goes like this. Ooh. That's nice. Was that a good animation, guys? Does it look good? You can see from here, yeah? Or can it be a bit faster, but with the same control? the stretch between this finger, thumb, and also fourth finger is very good. So now I can go from here to this note. Ooh. Now it's very good. Now, let's recap. So it's important when we play something quite fast, and then we feel like it doesn't sound good, then we have to do this exercise. So, tip number 3 is very simple. Practice slowly. Repeat after me. Isn't that easy? And yet, so many pianists and musicians forget this very simple thing. So, all the kids out there, who plays the piano? Put your hand up. Whoever plays piano. You. Good. Also the orchestra. Anyone from here? Okay, I can see you also. Sorry, what's your name? Hello. Sorry? Jeff. Is that correct? Jeff. Nice. How long have you been playing piano? 3 years. Wonderful. Give him a round of applause. Good job. So when you're still young, Jeff, remember to practice slowly. Good. Now, that was all a bit of a trick. I did actually practice this piece. And I'll play it as it should sound. Now, I have a little comment. Now, when you see my head go like this, can you please clap to the rhythm? So, pom, da, 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 pa, 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 pa. Can we rehearse that together with me? When you hear this theme, very good. Now, when that finishes, please stop clapping. If not, you won't be able to hear me. Let's put it from beginning to end, with you guys clapping in the middle. Okay. Was that the same thing? Yes or no? No, so we do not clap. Ready? Someone clapped. Oh, you guys have been such a good audience. Very participative. Now let's move on to the last piece of this half. Now this one is also by the same composer of the second piece, so by Frédéric Chopin, but this time it's a different piece. It's called Fantasie Impromptu in C sharp minor. Actually, the title is French, so I'll try it again. Fantasie Impromptu. Was that better? That's good. Yes. I mean, I was taking a holiday in Nice. Actually, it was more for studying for master class, and the way they speak, the French people. I mean, there's a certain kind of interesting eloquence and beauty to the language, and it really shows when you listen to Frédéric Chopin or any of his pieces. Now, this piece is quite tricky because there's a lot of notes, and a lot of notes can scare people. So if we have so much notes, like if we play too much notes, then it can sound quite bad. This is one example. Or the problem is I don't understand what I just played. So when I don't understand the music and there's too many notes, why would you guys understand? So the audience doesn't understand, also I don't understand, the music sounds bad. Now, this piece has the problem of having too many notes. I'll play you one example now from the piece. What's that? I don't know, it sounds like a lot of notes to me. I don't understand it. Sounds weird. Now, do you remember what I said about Frédéric Chopin? Where did he go? Does anyone remember? You? Yes? The opera. So his music should sound like opera, exactly. But that doesn't sound like opera, it sounds like doesn't sound nice. So, let's break it down a little bit. When we play music and there's so many notes, what's important is that we know which are the important notes, which are the not so important notes. So, when you write, for example, when you give a present to somebody, when you give it to someone important, you always give a good present. Now, if you give a present to someone you do not like, you give them not a present, but something scary. So this must be the same. So the important notes, we have to treat very important, like important people, and not so important notes, we can give, not too much, just less. So, let's find the important notes. So the important notes for that whole thing was maybe this. That sounds better already. At least it sounds like something like a melody. Now, if you play a bit more singing, maybe it can sound like this. That sounds nicer already, doesn't it? Now, I have a question. Who can say the first one is, who can say this one is better than the first one? So, who says it's worse? Anyone with hands up? Nobody? Who says it's better? Okay, good. I still want some confidence from those people who say it's wrong. Okay, So we have the important notes being singing. And now we have these little notes which are not so important, but they go like this. So this melody, and they go like, ooh, like a little kind of squiggle. And when we put it together, so it sounds like this. When we put this and the main melody together, it should sound like a rushing wind. So that sounds very picturesque, like, ooh, this kind of sound. So, tip number 4 is there are important notes and there are not so important notes. So, important notes, not important notes. Repeat after me. And. Yes, very good. And now I will play to you the whole piece by Frédéric Chopin, and I hope you remember this little fact when you listen to the beginning of it. unfortunately, that's the end of the first half. Now, I hope that you remember all those 4 tips because there's something that you'll need it for. Have a good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you're enjoying the concert so far. We will now have a 15-minute intermission. We would kindly ask for your cooperation for no foods to be brought in the hall. Should you wish to go to the bathrooms, they are located to the left of the hall. A bell will ring 5 minutes before the performance recommences. Thank you.